What is going on, guys? And today we're going to be making our own calculator program in Python, all right? And so now that we've learned everything, I think it kind of makes sense for us to start making our own project. And this is usually the exciting part in an app developing course, okay? And so here we are. We have some basic things that we have in our calculator program. We have add, subtract, multiply, and divide, right? Basic stuff in a calculator. And also what we need is beautiful user interface because if you might have noticed, great programs have great user interface. And that's going to be the most important thing I think of a program is user interface because that's what, attracts the user to the program and makes them want to use it more, right? Because, it's really easy to use and has beautiful user interface. All right? So, we also need two options, therefore we need two variables, two parameters. When I say two options, I mean, two numbers that we allow the user to store for themselves. And we want the user to store them in two variables, and since we don't want to, declare a value for the variables, unless the user tells us to, we want to put two parameters so that we don't need to, give the variables any values. Because if you might have noticed, if I declare a variable right here, I have to give it a value. But if I'm making a function, right, let's call a function random name, x and y, I don't have to declare those variable values, all right? So now that we have that, we also need logic to a program, right? We need some if statements, right? If the user chooses add, call the add function. If the user chooses subtract, choose the subtract function. It's just stuff like that, all right? So let's start our program, right? So we already know that we need an add function, a subtract function, a multiply function, and a divide function. All right. So we're going to define our add function, right? And remember, we need two parameters so that the user can declare values for those parameters given an input, right? So we have x, y, and we just want to return x and y, right? Return x plus y. Simple as that. We have our parameters x and y. We're just going to return x plus y, okay? And we can do the same with subtract. Subtract x and y. Return x minus y. Define multiply x and y. Then we want to return x times y. Then we have define divide x y. Return x divided by y. Okay? So, just take a moment, take all of this in right now because if you really look at it, it makes sense, right? We have our add function, and with our add function, we just want to add two numbers or the two parameters that the user will set, all right? Subtract function, same thing. Multiply function, same thing. Divide function, same thing, all right? And now let's move on to this user interface part, okay? So now we have all of our functions. User interface is also really important, okay? So with user interface, we want to prompt the user. We want to say, hey, choose one of these operations, right? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So we're just gonna go ahead and print out choose an operation. All right. And so if we print this out, or if we run it, it's gonna say choose operation right here. All right. And we want to list out the operation choices that they have: add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So we're going to go ahead and do that right here. We're just going to copy and paste this. Add, subtract, multiply, divide. We can go ahead and change these up. One is add. Choice one is add. Choice two is subtract. Choice three will be multiply. Choice four will be divide. All right. So we want to run this again. And it's important, by the way, to keep running it as you go through because then you can find some errors. Alright, so we say choose an operation, you can add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Alright, so we gave the user the options, but we want to allow the user to choose an option, right? And we know with our logcat we can't just click on it and it'll do something. We need to allow the user to type something in, alright? And so to do so, we need an input, right? We need to give the user an input. So we're going to call the input choice, and we're going to say input choose an operation or select a choice, right? Select a choice. And then we have to say to the user, hey, you can choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. All right. And so now that we have this choice, after the user clicks a choice, we need to let the user choose two numbers to perform that operation in. All right. So we can call the first number num1 is equal to, and we need to turn before we do operations, we need to turn our string into an int. So we're going to say int, and then we're going to put in our input. Input, enter first number. Okay, so we allow the user to choose their first number because inputs always return strings, and we want to turn that string into an integer. All right, and so we need to do that with the second number as well. So we're going to call this num2. We're going to say enter second number. Okay, so we allow the user to choose two numbers after they choose an operation. But we haven't given this any logic yet, right? So we want to say if our choice is number 1, for example, then do call add function, all right? If they choose number 2, call the subtract function, right? So we want to give it some logic. And I'll just talk about that in the next part of the video. So go ahead, just take all of this in right now. I want you guys to be actively, writing this code down, all right? And so sometimes, just pause the video so that you guys can, kind of think this through rather than just watching me do things, all right? So I'll see you guys in the next video, and stay curious.